If you're doing a side hustle, it can't feel like a second job. People think, right, is she mad? Why are we starting in February for next Christmas?
You recently gave up posting for brands, though.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh,
Anne-Marie, it feels like January has been about 16 weeks long and payday still isn't here. So there's a lot of people, I think, who are saying to themselves, I never want to feel this way again. And I'm wondering, you're somebody who has transformed her relationship with money. Is it possible to get to a point where January doesn't feel like that?
absolutely. I think there'll always be an aspect of it. So I always think it's very important for people, they're preparing themselves. January is going to be miserable anyway. The electricity bills come in, the bills are higher, they might be paying back credit cards, different things. So it's always going to be one of those months that's a bit dreary. But emotionally, if you prepare yourself for it, but then start saving in February for next Christmas. And I am so serious about this. People think, right, is she mad? Why are we starting about in February for next Christmas? Save a little bit every single week. Everything I teach is so simple, but it's so effective.
Got it. So next week you're ready. Next month even you're ready to go.
Yeah, ready to go. Start a sinking fund. Open a credit union account. Start putting in €10, €20, €30, whatever it is a week that you can afford, and then you will have a little pot coming to December.
And do you do that for other big ticket events and items?
Everything. So be it my car insurance, be it my summer holidays, be it nice things I want to get. I have this thing I want to get a hot tub, and I'm going to start saving for it. So what I call it sinking funds. So basically, you're saving for a big yearly expenses. Now, all the things that come first are Christmas, birthdays, car insurance, car tax, house insurance, all that kind of stuff. But then for the extras as well, if I have extra money, then I'll have a sinking fund for my new carpets, for doing up the house, or some goal that I have throughout the year, and it just keeps you focused.
So for those who don't know you, you are the Irish Budgeting Mammy. What is that? How did it start?
Oh my God, it's one of those things that just happened. It was started as a hobby. So I was in lockdown. I was after having a baby, so I was on maternity leave. Lockdown literally happened 2 weeks after he was born, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to cope with all these kids? Because I have 3 other kids, and they were on the house as well. So it was literally my own little doodling. So I was doodling away. I was doing this, making a budget planner, doodling. Saw an ad on Facebook of how to self-publish, learn how to self-publish. So I did that. The lady that ran the ad and ran, the course, and she was like, you need to promote it. So I started an Instagram page, and then I found this huge community. There were so many, and a lot of them were US based, debt-free community, budgeting, saving, and it's nearly like you're giving yourself a little competition. So I want to save for this, I'm going to cut back on this. I prefer the word bargain hunter than anything else, because it's like you're creating a game for it. When going back to Irish Budget Mammy, so Irish Budget Mammy then just grew. I noticed that there was nobody sharing their figures. So I do a lot of what's called loud budgeting. I share what I earn. I share what I spend on things. There was no Irish page doing that. So I jumped in. So when I do my budget videos, which is my budgeting, that is what I'm coming in my wage. That's how I'm spending it. This is what I'm splitting it up into, be it a sinking fund, be it my food, be it my car tax, whatever it is. And then I share it. And that's kind of how it grew. It's definitely turned into a lot more than I ever anticipated. There's a lot of parts with it that there's times I've thought about leaving it, ending it, and not doing it anymore. And then I learned that I was kind of burning myself out. So now I just take a break, and then I come back and go again.
Got it. You said there about there aren't many Irish people sharing exactly how much they earn. Is that a uniquely Irish phenomenon? Because you see internationally, like how other, for want of a better word, finfluencers share or don't share online. Is it an Irish thing?
I think we have a thing about money. I think I noticed the other day in work, someone goes, I like your jumper. And I was, oh yeah, I got this in Dunnes Stores, it cost me. I was like, what am I doing? Why didn't I just say yes, thank you? And other people, I remember asking somebody how much their car cost, and they nearly passed out. It was like, and I was like, well, I can just go online and actually Google the make a car and see how much your car costs. Like, why? And my wage, I'm a nurse, so anyone that wants, they can go on and see the pay scales. Why not? Why keep it like a secret and not share? That kind of thing. And I think because when I was really struggling and financially, it felt like everyone had a lot more. So it looked like everybody was spending, that there had a lot more money coming in. I was the only one struggling because nobody was sharing that they were actually struggling too. And they were sharing that, right, actually, I have really low income as well. Do you know that kind of way?
Yes, yeah. And you really did struggle, because I think at this time of the year we're all going around saying we're broke. But, I don't think many of us really, truly know what it is to be broke.
I really struggled.
Yeah. Tell me about that time.
So if I hadn't planned for anything that happened. So at 30, I had just had my daughter. She was 5 weeks old, so I got separated. And there was a recession, and I had lost my job because I worked in childcare at the time. So there was no work. Nobody, because everybody was struggling. So there wasn't as many people sending their children to childcare. So I lost my job. I had just had a new baby. I just lost my marriage. I had no financial help from anywhere. So I ended up on lone parent. I had a mortgage which ended up just being completely mine. So I had to pay that, and I had to put a roof over my children's heads. It was a very dark time because emotionally I was still young, like I was 30, and I felt like everyone else was starting their lives, because if I looked on Facebook or whatever, everyone was getting married, or they're just having their first baby, and here is me, divorced, age 30, 3 kids, no strong qualifications behind me, no job, a mortgage I couldn't pay. So yeah, it was. I know a lot of people think they're struggling, but that was really, really struggling, and I nearly lost my house, and that's why I made it a huge mission of mine to become mortgage free, because I nearly lost my house.
So that leaves an imprint, that
yes,
or scar tissue.
Yes,
sure.
It definitely does. And I think, even I'll start panicking if I think I don't have any money, or if I don't have my emergency fund, or if I don't have a little bit of money behind me, because you're going back to a place of where I had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself getting triggered these days with anything that might bring you back to that period? Because there's this idea of financial trauma,
yes,
financial PTSD.
Yeah.
But I think you've truly been through something. Do you find that you have?
I have it, and it's actually, I explained it to my daughter, because she was like, "Oh, mommy, buy this, buy that," when we were out today, and I was like, "No," and then she was like, "Oh, you're not that poor," and she goes, "I know you have some money," and I said, "Yeah, that's called an emergency fund." I said, "That's called our savings," and I think she's living in an era where there is a lot out there, whereas my older children, they're 20 and 18 now, and they work so hard. They're really good work ethics, and they definitely got that from me, because they've watched me have to work so hard. And I always say, if you want something, you have to earn it, you have to work for it. But they would have a different mindset, where she's coming into an era where we're very influenced with influencers, and everything else. And I'm seen as an influencer as well, but she's going, well, even when we're in a shop, she goes, "Oh, such and such a one has this one on Instagram, and such a thing, and blah blah blah." So she's kind of coming into what I came out into, which was the Celtic Tiger years. I was a Celtic Tiger baby. I came out of school, and I remember you get the Evening Herald, and there were jobs, and I get the jobs. It was literally, there was no problem getting the jobs, and it felt like that money was never going to end. So when I got separated at 30, it was the depths of the recession. So we're knee deep into it. And I hadn't learned how to mind my money. I literally hadn't, and my parents would have always done all right. So I didn't come from an area where they were counting the pennies. So I didn't, and they never talked about it. They just did okay, and money wasn't discussed. And I always felt like, I was never told, right, we have to save for that. No, it just happened, and there was never any talk into it. And I think that's where a lot of my money lessons didn't happen in childhood. So everything that I learned from age 30 onwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that before, because I follow you. You have said that you do. It was a financial crash course for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the kind of big lessons you learned during that time, moments where you were like, how am I only learning this now?
Credit card.
Okay.
I had a really bad relationship with credit cards. And I remember I was 20 and going in to the bank I was living up in Dublin at the time, and I remember where the bank was. It was near Camden Street. So I went in, I was like, "Oh, can I get a credit card?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, fill in the form." And next thing, the credit card came in the post, and then the rate was 500, whatever. And then when I reached the 500, they were like, "Oh, we've increased your the spending rate, and we increased. And this kept going on until I was 10,000 in credit card debt, and I was earning 20,000 a year. So so it was a huge life lesson. And I don't think, like, we've all learned from what happened, and the banks don't lend at the same rates anymore. But I had to learn that at an older age, and I had huge amount of responsibilities when I was trying to learn that. Because I had 3 mouths to feed, and they were solely being fed by me. Yeah.
Can you tell me how you climbed out of it? Did you, like, 'cause we often hear, like, there's a debt snowball technique.
Yes.
Like all these different techniques to climb. Like, what was the strategy for you?
I went to Mabs, and they sat me down and they took out what I had, and the lady goes, "What do you eat? Baked beans?" Because I was in college at the time. I was paying for childcare. I was on loan parent. I was getting the Susie grant, and she sat me down and showed me how to do it. And it's so, when I look back now, and I do it every day now, I'm going, how did I find that so hard? How did I not think that you could sit down and, map every single thing out? But I didn't. And she sat down and she did it with me. And then she got payment plans put into place, and I just stuck rigidly to them. So when I got to the age then, when I was finished college and I was earning as a nurse, the first year was all about debt payment. And we did our days out, we did all that kind of thing, but the first year was all about debt payments. And what happened when I was finished paying all those debts back, I got a loan and went on holidays.
Oh, way, okay.
Yes, but it wasn't a big loan. It was a small loan. But I literally felt like I wanted to give to my children because we had been deprived for so long. And it was my debts that had deprived them. So I felt bad because they didn't do anything. They didn't go to the bank and get a credit card. It was me. I brought them on my first son holiday with them as a single parent, but I paid back that really fast. Like I overpaid it, and I had to pay it back by the end of the next year, or the end of the same year. But so it was all about learning that if I'm not against debt, because people often think it's a debt-free community. Nobody should have any debts. If you can pay it back, and if it's going to benefit your life, and you're going to get it and go, right, okay, I need to get that, but pay it back as quickly as possible, then I feel it's okay. But like the loan, I got to go on the holiday. But it's when you get into the cycle that the money, you just keep topping up the debts and debts and debts. Whereas if you say, right, I want it or need it, well, I got a pod this year, so I got a loan for the pod. The kids can't afford to move out, so everyone's still living at home, so that gives us extra space. But that loan I'm already paying back extra, and I won't get another loan. Whereas what I used to do was I was to get more and more and more and adding to the debt. If you do get a debt, just that's it, leave it at that, pay it off.
So tell me about other cutbacks that you had to make. So you're pushing away or trying to get this credit card debt and general debt down. But were there cutbacks that you made day to day to your lifestyle?
When I started working as a nurse, so I had lived on nothing for 4 years. That's how I look at it. We were, because by the time I finished paying for the childcare, now I was very lucky. My parents my mum's passed away since, but she lived right next door to me, so they were very good for collecting them from the childminder, so I didn't have to pay any extra hours or anything like that. So so I was lucky in that sense, but I still had to pay for my childminder, and I still had to pay for food for the kids, and I still had to pay for heating and electricity and all the other things. But when I qualified as a nurse, I continued living like that. Regardless of getting the money, I continued living like that for the next year, a year and a half. Yeah. Okay. And then when I paid down the debts, we could start having a bit of life again. And I think it's really important, because people think it's all about cutting back and not living. You have to live your life. I did a post on Instagram at the weekend. I was looking back in pictures. It was the 2016 trend. I was looking back at the pictures going, oh my God, that's, to me, when I think of 2016, it seems like no time ago. But my kids are fully grown now, compared to then. And they were so tiny. And I was thinking, if I hadn't done it then, if I hadn't brought them on the days out, if I hadn't, give them experiences, they would be growing up by now, and I wouldn't have realised it. It would have gone too fast. So I think it's really important. Did you have to live your life as well? You can't cut everything, because what'll happen is, like me, you'll come and get a loan to go on holidays as soon as you finish paying everything back. It's not sustainable long term, but it's about making balance. So you need to balance everything. So I don't go mad. I will look at the prices. I will encourage you to check menus. If I go out I love eating out. It's one of my biggest downfalls, but now I'll eat because it's too much food. I will eat like either a starter and a couple of glasses of wine if I'm with friends, or I will eat, or maybe 2 starters, or order a main course. It's all about the balance. So I'm still living, but I'm just not, it's not costing me as much as if I was going out and getting a 3-course meal and a bottle of wine, so it's about making balance throughout your life.
Do your kids, now that they're a little bit older, when they think back to that time when they were younger, do you think they knew that you guys were struggling?
Yeah, and the only reason I know is because my 20-year-old said to me, he said about when he was in school, he always felt like the poorest child in the school because other people have pocket money. Mine didn't. And there wasn't just enough in the budget. And there never was. Even in the early years when I was nursing, the wage was quite low. Like now I've progressed. I'm a clinical nurse manager. But back then, when I was starting out nursing, the wages have been cut hugely with the recession and everything else. But it was something he said to me, and it's only a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, I always felt like the poor child in school. And I was like, but you weren't. I said you had, your granny and granda bought you clothes, and he goes, yeah, I know, but I never had pocket money. And I was like, okay. So they did notice, and I think it's made them the way they are because both the boys, the 2 older boys, they work a lot, and they've saved and they bought their own cars, and they have a really, and people go to me, oh, they're great lads, they're always working, they're great work. They don't always work, but you know what I mean, they've great work ethic. And I was like, okay, so that they have learnt that because I couldn't have the money to, give them pocket money to go to shopping up the town or do anything else like that. So they learned to earn their own money. And I think it'll stand to them long term. I know a lot of people say the generation now that, that they're in don't understand money and, don't do that. But I think because they watched me struggle, and they'll always say thank you. And even now they'll go, thank you for bringing me on holidays, back in 2017 or whenever it was we went on our first holiday. They remember that, and it kind of stuck with them. And I think now, especially the 20-year-old, because he's an adult, he knows how hard it was to have those days out. They just weren't. It wasn't just like I had loads of money and we could go to the zoo. When I went to the zoo, we saved for the zoo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there anything that in your household that you guys will never ever ever spend money on, even if money was coming out of your ears? It's something that you just never spend money on.
Well, I would, the Stanley Cup was one of those things. My sister bought one for her, aunt bought one for her, but I was like, no, I'm not spending €45 on a drinking cup. I was like, it didn't make any sense to me. But in general, I encourage, if there's something you really want, just budget for it and cut out other things. If it's something like, because if it's going to make you feel good or make you feel happy and you really, really want it, then budget for it. I would never condemn anyone's spending. I think that's something we do in this country as well, is like, oh, why would they spend on that? Or, why would they spend on this? Well, we all have opinions, but we don't need to voice them sometimes. So, like, personally, I'd be like, well, I wouldn't buy it, but if you want to buy it, that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about cash envelope budgeting. Yes. You're a big believer in that, right?
Huge. It's so much harder to split a 50 than it is tap the card for a can of Coke. Do you know what I mean? Yes. It's like you can go into a shop and go, right, okay, you stand at the till, right, I've bought my diesel. What am I going to get next? Oh, there's a bag of crisps. Oh, I might get that for later on. I might get a can of Coke, and then you go to it's whatever, and you tap the card and you walk out. But that has a delayed reaction. You stand at the counter with your €50 note in your hand, and you have to break that, and you're going to go, why am I buying a can of Coke? Why am I buying, a 6-pack of crisps? You'll stand back and actually you'll feel the emotional attachment to money as well.
So you go to the ATM.
Yes.
You take out
the money,
a load of cash.
Yeah.
And you physically put it into different envelopes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, tell me.
It sounds like hard work, but it's not.
And they're broken up into
yes,
one's kind of like discretionary, one's for bills.
Yes, and then the bills all come out because of direct debits. So what I call my cash envelopes is my variable spending. So it's the money that I can cut back on. So I can cut back on my food shopping. I can cut back on my beauty because that's a big thing. I love beauty. So facials, all that kind of thing. And if it's a week where I've had a lot of bills with what I call my fixed expenses, which would be my electricity, my car loan, and so on and so on. if it's a week where a doctor's bill or, you know, something for the children or something, I would call them my fixed expenses because I can't change them. Like they are what they cost. When I come to my cash envelopes, I could have my fun money. I don't have to spend that. Do you know, I don't have to spend it. But when I physically have the money in my hand, I'm less likely to spend it than if it was in the bank account. It'd just be swallowed up.
Yes, yeah. So social media for you now, it's another income, right? And it's another career.
Yeah.
So how much of your time goes into it?
I pick it up and leave because I work full time. There was a time when I started at first, it became like I felt like I was in a hamster wheel. I was working, I was still always working. So I was working away and then I was doing social media and then I was answering 100 billion messages a day. And then I was like going, oh my God, I actually went, no, something has to give. And I kind of became allergic to it for a while and wasn't doing it as often. Now I'm back doing it full time, but I pick and choose. So if I make my posts, I post my posts, I spend a little bit of time, but I switch off. The phone's down at 9 o'clock, unless it's a Friday night or something like that where I'm going to stay up a bit later. The phone is down at 9 o'clock, so the messages will just have to stay there.
Yeah. You recently gave up posting for brands, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I think that's another one. I give that up because I didn't feel it fitted with my ethos of what Irish Budget Mammy is. My ethos of I didn't feel that if I was promoting a certain company, a certain utility company, a certain supermarket brand, whatever, unless I was shopping there or like getting my utilities from that company all the time, how can I promote swapping and changing your company bills? How can I promote shopping, swapping and changing where you do your food shopping? I couldn't feel like I was being loyal to my followers if I was being loyal to a big brand, but secretly I was going to a different supermarket or secretly I was going to a different utility company. And I'm all about checking the best prices and looking for the best, a bargain hunter as a fun way. But it just didn't sit right. I wanted to be known for my budget book. I want to be known for my own products and what I do myself. And I also think it gives a lot more trust to my followers if they know that I'm living off my wage. I'm showing you how to live off my wage. I'm earning from my side hustle, which is my books and all that kind of thing. I just felt to give a more solid foundation to Irish Budget Mammy. And that's my own personal thing. Like I would never condone anyone for doing promotions. That's their own business. And if they feel comfortable, I also didn't feel very comfortable doing the video and all that kind of thing. So it wasn't, I'm some people think that you need to be a very outward personality to be on social media. For me, that kind of thing wasn't just sitting right with me. Yeah,
it's a lot of money to give up at the same time.
It is a lot of money, and there's times I've gone, oh my God, like a big bill has come in. I'm going, why did I give that up? And then I was like, I can't go back on what I said, but I don't want to go back on it. I do work with different things. I've worked with the credit union recently, and I do work with different companies, but I do more webinars, so it's kind of more educational. That's why I kind of sit with where I talk and share my knowledge to a group rather than promoting a project and going, this is such a thing.
That's your comfort zone. And now you have the online travel business.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Yeah, it sounds random, but it's not really. I love travel, and that's a huge thing. It's a huge part of my life, and it's always been a huge part of my life. Like my children, before I was separated, I'm divorced, my children were at the pyramids, they were in Las Vegas. It was something that we did as a family, and it's probably contributed to my debts as well. But it was something we did a lot of, and I always think it opens up the mind. So when I get contacted about so many business opportunities with having an Instagram page, when I got contacted that I was launching in Ireland, I launched my business on the day it came to Ireland. And travel is something I love, and also it's building me a passive income as well, which is really, really important. Because I have rheumatoid arthritis, which always kind of scares me because my mum had it and it really affected her mobility levels from when she was very young. So for me, building an income that will come in regardless of my health, that's really important as well.
So passive income, multiple streams of income, as we're always told to have.
Yes.
So you've kind of got that down. Like you definitely know how to do this. So for people listening to this who are thinking 2026 is the year I'm going to get a side hustle, what's kind of emerging online? Is there anything are there any growth areas that you would advise
The
people
travel,
to look at?
yeah, the travel, but as well as that, do something you like, because it's not. If you're doing a side hustle, it can't feel like a second job. Or you're not going to be able to do it. It has to be like, I find Instagram fun at times. You know, I find making the posts. I'm quite creative, so I enjoy making the posts or looking at the angle to kind of come in and make the, you know, the chat line and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy that. It was always quite fun for me. If you're doing a side hustle, you can't be like working 9 to 5 and then going, oh my God, I have to do more work tonight, because you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out very, very quickly and very, very badly. It needs to be something that you are going to go, right, actually, I'm really enjoying doing this. You know, some people paint, some people make things, some people, you know, are very computer orientated, but they need to have it that it's like their hobby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then likewise, you are Irish budgeting mammy, so
Yes.
it would be remiss of me not to ask you for some general budgeting tips. So
Right.
somebody who's never
Yeah.
done a budget,
Okay.
and I'm talking like ground zero.
So you need to sit down and you need to write out everything you're spending and everything that's coming in. You need to get a feeling of your money. And now I mean write everything down. I mean, if you find €1 down your couch, put that down as an income. If you go into the shop and you spend 70 cent, I don't know if you can get anything in the shop for 70 cent anymore, but if you spend 70 cent, write it down. Your toll bridge, write it down and know exactly what's coming in and going out, and then sit down and look, budget, break down your expenses, know what your ESB is usually, know what your heating bills are, and then what you need to do is face your debts, because so many people don't know what they actually owe. They don't know what the balance on their loan is, they don't know how long they've left, they don't know the interest rates. Sit down and know exactly what you owe, and then you know where you're going forward.
Anne-Marie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much for having me.